if we can get her on. She is out in the desert heat and trying to connect. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Mindi of MindiGets.com. Auntie Kirka, my sidekick and buddy, will hopefully be joining us in just a sec to talk about summer reading. I know that we said we would be talking, well, about adults, or maybe it was assumed that we would be talking about adults, but I am a librarian's assistant in my hometown, and I do a lot more work, I guess, with the kiddos, or in the kiddos area. And I have a kiddo, and she does summer reading and story time. And so, just real quick, hi there, beautiful girl. I was gonna cheat, and
hello.
I'm gonna cheat and talk about kids' books really quick before you get
Go do it.
That's okay.
Yep.
Situated. So, some of my favorite resources as a parent are the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Google it, see if it's available in your area, sign up for it. A book a month for your kid from birth to age 5. I just froze, hopefully you can still hear me. From birth to age 5, starting off with The Little Engine That Could, and then a graduation book. You do get a book that Dolly wrote along the way, and they are graduated according to age, and they're nice books. And oh, of course, Worms, my little girl's favorite, but they include fiction and nonfiction titles, and every so often you also get a bilingual title. So there's Spanish and English, and they'll have the Spanish words on one page and the English page on the other, English words on the other, and so that's also a great option. And I love that they come year-long, and they come in the mail. Your kids can look forward to getting them. My kid doesn't really know that they come in the mail. I've kind of been sneaky about it, so they're stockpiles of gifts for my kid, free. Especially good for road trips. Mama can pull a book out of her purse that we've never seen before, and ooh, it's exciting. The other thing that I love is, I always say it wrong. Is it Usborne or Usborne? Amelia, you're gonna have to correct me. These books are sold by consultants in a community marketing way. These happen to be some titles from the phonics readers. I think there's 20 books in the collection that I bought for my daughter. She loves them. She's memorized all of the titles. They are great for just starting reading. And they have, the Dolly Parton books also have conversation starters and information about reading to your kids. The nonfiction one didn't, but these also have phonics help for those of us that homeschool. And what I really love about their books, the Usborne, Usborne, they have some fabulous Lift the Flap books. Even though my daughter can't read, she reads them to me because she's memorized them. But it's interactive. This book goes in our car most of the time because she will not complain that she can't read yet. She will read this to herself. And so I love those resources for kiddos. So good morning. Cheers, Mama. Do you have your big jug of water?
I just finished my coffee. You know what? It's out with the teenager. Sorry, I'm also out in the dust. Let's see if I can show out my window.
Yeah, the dust. Big
Out
fat,
in the
flat,
middle
dusty
of
dust.
where, yeah, so sorry. Life of an archery mom.
Yep.
Early Sunday morning practices outdoors. Because of the way the season got postponed from this, well, it starts in April and ends in October, and it's going to be compressed into an August through October kind of season. So, excuse me, I have no idea. I was talking to Harley just a minute ago, and yeah, it wasn't like that, so I apologize. But I just polished off coffee, and she has the water, so go figure.
That's all right. It's important that the one
but yeah,
doing the exercise in the sunshine has the water. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. And I love water. She got her own bottle of water in the morning now, and she gets it ready to go.
That's right.
But I love the Usborne books too. Actually, Ollie has gotten addicted to, we have one of those like Shine Behind books.
Yes.
And it's about life in the city, and he has been begging for it every day lately.
That's awesome.
He loves anything he can use a flash for. So Amelia, I'll probably hit me up for a little bit more of those books.
Yes. We have one that's the flashlight book that's about the library, like being at the library. And one of our summer reading bingo squares is read by flashlight. So I keep meaning, so we've separated out some books that are specially to help the kids get their bingo squares checked off. And I keep forgetting to grab that one, partially because I want to take it home. We haven't read it yet. We got it as part of my grandmother's memorial. But Eden and I haven't got to read it with Eden. I think she's read it with my mom, but I thought for the bingo that we would pull that one out and do that to cross off her bingo square. So those are some fun and interactive things that aren't just about words on a page, which when you're transitioning from just picture books to learning how to read and paying attention to the words that are on the page, to us adults that just gets words on the page. Those are great.
It's so weird because both of my kids, I have one book that is utterly destroyed, and it's actually one of my favorite books. It's a young adult book, but it's another one of those that's also written that adults like. It's the Aragon series, right, about the dragons.
Yes.
I have a soft cover of the first book. Harley used to sit there and literally, with no pictures, just be like, "Mommy, I'm reading," and she just flipped through, had no idea. She just knew of the dragon on it. Her brother did the same thing, the same book.
Those get checked out a lot in our library, and yes, Eden is like, "Mama, those are dragons." She saw them in the CD, in the audiobook collection. She's like,
"Oh yeah,
those are dragons. What kind of dragon do you think that is?" I said, "Well, that one looks like a slinkwing." And she's like, "And so does that one. Do you think they're all slinkwings?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just proud of myself for remembering the term, because that's not my thing."
Yeah, and then he told me the other night that he's a big boy and he doesn't want board books.
Oh.
The little kid board books. He informed me at bedtime. But I don't want one of those board books for little kids. I want a real paper book.
That's sweet.
Eden
still reads those to herself. She'll read them to herself.
Well, they have some decent board books for that, like 3 to 5 range, that aren't like, the stories are still.
It's a story instead of picture of a ball with the word ball. Yeah.
But he's also signing yet. So we have some he got for Christmas 2 Christmases ago from his cousin that are the ABC. It's like the ABCs of monsters or something. But it's done for kids because it's like, B is fancy. And he learned such weird words. Q is for Quetzalcoatl. I can't even say it. So anyway.
Yeah, oh, yes. Yeah.
But there's a lot of.
Yes. All the
And of course,
dinosaur
I've got
books.
the ABCs of RPGs.
Oh, of course. Of course. But we do read things that don't have pictures, and we do read things for ourselves. It does take a little more time than getting through a board book. And part of the reason that we don't read quite as much as we would like is because we have littles on our lap that are like, one more, one more, one more. And I think that's a good problem to have, right?
But that's how you get readers, and that's how you get teenagers that just suck up the popular books as well as new books. And she has loved even the teen books or the tween books that we've gotten from, because they also have older kid books on this board.
Yeah.
So, but she's starting to read some of the stuff that I'm reading too. So that's kind of helpful. 2 for 1. You know, I can pick up Artemis Fowl and we'll both read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. And we love a library.
And
local bookstores. Support those.
Yes.
So what's your first book?
Which are finally...
No, go ahead.
Mine are new. I was going to say, which they're finally starting to open to some degree. And we've got a couple of fave used bookstores. I know it's a little bit more tricky right now with everything going on. But some of those can be a little bit more local than for new books. But even the used bookstores are carrying new books, just in less supply. You know, they always have a limited supply of new stuff. But so far, so what I'm currently... Oh, I'm getting an echo all of a sudden.
Sorry. No, that was me.
No.
I was checking for comments.
I got my whole words coming back at me. And I don't mean to talk over you. I know I have a bad habit of doing that anyway, but right now I'm a little bit more delayed out here on the desert. So
yes.
I have a tendency, to start many books at a time and have 2 piles, one to read and one that I'm reading. And sometimes the I'm reading pile is the same height. Anyway, what I'm currently reading is, and I tend to have one fiction and one nonfiction book kind of going at the same time. Right now I have 2 nonfiction books going. Go figure. But one is, it's new.
Okay. Love
that.
Glennon
Doyle's Untamed. And I'm not meaning to cover the book name, but it's got a sticker on it from the story about it. So, and it's so colorful. I think it's actually interfering with the camera a little bit, but
that's all right.
I am about a third of the way through, and that is mainly from a what do you call it? Just a where can I read and when. I actually take it out to the range when I take teenager out here. So, and I've been taking it with me to her practices lately. So I've been, kind of pushing through it a little bit more. And it's one that I approached to read from, even though I knew it was nonfiction, I approached it to read from more of a kind of story. Cause it's I thought it was more autobiography kind of thing. So I didn't approach it to take notes, unlike this one that I'm also reading.
Yep.
Still reading. I know it's taking me a little bit longer. It's about the same way through it as Untamed, but I'm taking notes. Like I'm approaching this one, taking notes.
Yeah.
But the problem is I've gotten a third of the way through this one. And I've started to take pictures of it because I don't have my notebook. And I sent you a couple of them too, because I'm like, all right, I got to remember this. Okay, I got to remember this. And then I wind up taking pictures of it. Yep. So those are what's on my currently reading list. But I've got more. What's on are you currently reading something?
I am, well, as far as my haven't gotten through is this from Courtney Epps. So nonfiction business book. And yeah, you can see that? Yeah. There's a few things to take note of. And I got to the place, I was reading this at the end of the year, and I was trying to make some decisions about business, and I got to this place about S Corps. I'm like, okay, I have to make some decisions. Do I read this? Do I read that? Like, and so I kind of quit. And I also knew that where I was money-wise, it was just smart for me to get the taxes done and then apply this knowledge for this next year the way that I'm earning this year and how I'm moving forward. She's also writing another book. I'm not sure exactly when it will be out, but I will be buying it because even though I'm a librarian, I totally believe in libraries and I check out more books than I buy. This is a buy.
Yeah, I tend to buy books that I know I'm going to read more than once, possibly, or I'm going to want to keep for reference like that. You know, you're going to want to refer back to your tab pages or something that, because I actually have even book series that I've read even more than once, more than twice. I read it 3 or 4 times through. So I tend to buy those books and then try new things through the library, kind of.
Yes. If you have your own business, this is a business expense.
Oh, good
to know. Good to know. So, even something like this, or something like this, depending on your business and how you're working your business and how you set yourself up with your business, those can be business expenses too. If it's an education thing, and if it is in line with your business and it is in line financially, so like a $20 book is probably in line financially with some education, no matter how little you're making, as opposed to taking somebody out to a 5-star resort dinner and spending $800 on dinner. That might be questioned.
Right.
But learning how to easily make the money and expense the money for $20 pop is a good thing. So, not that I'm dispensing tax information, because not happening.
I would definitely not be the first person you would want to talk to about that.
This is the extent of my tax advice. See her out of the box tax, or out of the box something. Courtney Epps. You can find her. I think she even has a YouTube channel now. So that's one of my big recommendations. I don't read fiction very much anymore. I've gotten very picky. When I was going through a divorce, I got to the place where I couldn't watch movies with people cheating on their spouses.
I could see that, yeah.
Became uber offensive to me, and stuff like that comes up in movies or TV or whatever now, and it's not that it's less offensive. I still despise it, but I'm like, like whatever. I don't have to attach a whole lot of emotion or attention to it. But the more healing work and things that I've done, the less darkness, I don't know if I want to say that, but the less struggle I want in my life, and I don't want to glorify it in any way, and trauma. And so there's a lot of stuff out there that is just full of rage and hurt. And while I know that some of it does inspire and enlift, and some of it's nonfiction, right? Telling of oppression and modern day slavery and child victimization. And I'm not saying that their stories don't need to be told or don't need to be heard or witnessed or any of that. I totally know that that is valid. But on the fiction side, I don't enjoy it. I don't want I've never been one to like horror films either. You know that for firsthand.
Yeah.
She took me to
Or
Blade
sci-fi.
once. Like, what about that would I want to watch? I literally sat with my ears plugged and my eyes covered, my knees up to my chest. I couldn't even enjoy popcorn. But so there's
my fiction choices tend to be sorry.
I just, there are a few authors that write about empowering, fun, light fantasy-ish or expansion of reality that I appreciate and enjoy, but I'm up for a recommendation though from anyone who's reading some good light fiction.
But the stuff I tend to like aren't like topics that you would have, because I tend to like, I do tend to like Stephen King. In high school I absorbed Stephen King. I haven't read a lot of his newer stuff, but I loved his older stuff. I mean, I was reading Pet Sematary when I was Harley's age, which is fun when your cousin looks exactly like the kid they hire for the movie. But no, I'm more of a sci-fi fantasy, like The Hobbit. I mean, The Hobbit, Mists of Avalon, that kind of fantasy. Some of my favorite books are deep into fantasy, like the Wheel of Time series and the Outlander series. I bet you'd really enjoy the Outlander series. So it sits in a little, that's not fantasy. It's a little bit more historical fiction, but it's done. And they always put in the romance section because of the two lead characters, but, and then it takes place in one of my favorite places of all. Well, the first few books do, and then the rest takes place in the US. So go figure. But anyway, love those. But that's not what I'm reading right now because I'm waiting for new books to come out. I do have some Wheel of Time books I have to read though, and those are on my list. Another series I love is The Hunger Games. So the author came out with a one, so that's on both mine and Harley's reading piles for the summer. So, and then getting back to, so I do love historic literature. There's a lot of literature that I haven't read, and that's on my virtual pile because I can't just own every book in the world, which I would love to do. But so I picked this up a couple months ago, and it is still on my to-read list and has been on my book nightstand, just out of a have to read it. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't have a to-read pile. I have a bookcase of books I have not read yet because I have a tendency to buy books. But I buy them from the bargain price bin too sometimes. So I'm trying to get through that kind of fiction to some literature from history so I can read, what everybody's talked about. So that kind of fiction I prefer is that sci-fi fantasy, and even just, again, getting myself up to speed on. I can't talk about something that somebody else is reading or has read or, without having read it myself. And I know, so I'm trying to kind of go back to your high school reading lists, right? And read the thing. Harley read Fahrenheit 451 this year. I never read that in high school. I never read Animal Farm.
No, I graduated from high school never having been required to read an entire book. English, history, whatever. We never were required to read an entire book.
Oh my.
I read a lot. I did research, and so I read a lot of firsthand accounts of things, references. I read for my own pleasure to a certain extent. We had to read excerpts and chapters. We were never assigned an entire book.
Oh, wow. My English, granted, I was in honors, so we read more and did papers on them from a critical thinking kind of, more analysis of them.
Yeah, we didn't have an
and we had
honors
reading
program.
lists we had to get through. I'm sorry. That's
It's all good.
unfortunate.
The thing is, readers gonna read. You know,
Yeah,
like
I was gonna say, but you are a reader, so yeah.
the kids who aren't gonna read aren't gonna read, and it doesn't matter if you sign the whole book or not.
Yeah,
they aren't gonna read
yeah.
it.
That was my sister. Yeah, she's still not a big. The idea of sitting down and reading through. She's been a little bit better as an adult, but I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to transition since you have a lot of nonfiction. The nonfiction I'm reading this summer, besides the two that I'm already currently reading, is finally getting through this one by Felicia Day that I picked up when I met her in the fall. It's Embrace Your Weird. And her first book was a little bit of an autobiography. This one is a little bit more just accepting yourself and your differences. And it looks like it's a little bit more workbook. And then I just picked this one up. I actually love following her. It's her 5-second rule. It's one of her original ones. And I'm going to tell you, I flipped through and I just got it the other day. I'm going to give her and her publisher major kudos. You know how we were just talking about dog-earing pages, writing down passages, taking photos of them so you can keep them. I have no idea which one this is. I just flipped to one random one. So she has a whole page, has a quote. Check that out. It is meant to be cut out of the book. Looking on the other side. Look,
cool.
She even puts scissors to tell you. I don't know if you can see it. I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
Well,
it also makes it very Instagrammable.
Yeah. So she's got several pages of quotable things. I thought it was like only book I've ever seen like that. So anyway, those are my only two of my like I said, I've got a bookshelf, so we could sit here for hours. I know I even have a couple of books from you that I still haven't read that are on that to-do, that book list. What is on your fiction, nonfiction books?
I just have a couple. So I just watched Shine On, and have coming to the library Heart Talk by Cleo Ward. They're poems plus kind of life guidance insights, but I really liked her messages and the little poems that I have seen of hers out and about. And so that is coming from the library. Somewhere, speaking of taking pictures, so bad. Oh, yes. Jen Pasteloff is an author. On Being Human, I think is her book, which I haven't read, on the list.
Okay, then what was her first name?
Jen, Jen.
Oh, Jen.
Pasteloff.
Okay, because I heard Jim.
Yeah, her name is Jim.
Oh, wait.
Well, I do know possible. A Jim, Jem, but anyway. She recommended the Chronology of Water by Lydia Miles, and On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, I think. And then she was reading Heavy by I don't know. That she was recommending. Heavy might be too heavy for me, but Chronology of Water sounded inspiring, and On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. So yeah, this is an Instagram post. I totally snagged it so that I can, because my list lives everywhere. It's on scraps of paper.
Yes, same here.
It's whatever.
And we will put lists of at least the ones that we mentioned. We'll put them in the comments on each of our posts, so that you have them, so that you know spellings of authors, all of that. The other thing, I actually totally have an Instagrammed list as well, because one thing I noticed, and that has been laid bare to me in the last 2 weeks, right, is all of the books that I have in my hand, with the exception of Tales from the Arabian Nights, they're all Caucasian authors.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing necessarily wrong with that. They're all great authors. They're wonderful. I have an Instagram shot of some books that I'm also going to be looking up from African American authors. Some of them are women, some of them are men, but opening my thought, because there are some wonderful, wonderful authors out there. I mean, as much as I love her quotes, I will admit I've never actually read through from start to finish a Maya Angelou book.
Oh,
that's bad on me, right? I mean, there is only so much time in the day.
Yep.
You can only, I mean, there's a lot of books I have not read or don't own. And but on the other hand, I also haven't gone after. I think in part, like you said, I mean, you weren't even tasked with reading a whole book in high school, right?
Yep.
My high school, I did, and I went to a very diverse high school. Most of the recommended reading was Caucasian, mostly men. Even then, we didn't have a lot of African American authors on the reading list. So one thing that I'm looking out on, and I want to go look for things that challenge me. And then also I do want to look, when it comes to fiction, looking for stories that interest me too. So I'm kind of curating through that list and taking a look at it and seeing what I can pick up where, how,
Yes.
but
I'm
kind of expanding my list.
I think there's something to be said about reading to expand your understanding, your viewpoint, to choose to see from a different perspective. But I also think that it is perfectly okay to honor who you are. I am not in high school. I am not going to sit down and read Fahrenheit 451. I'm not. Not because I have anything against any of it. It's just that's not where I am right now. But I can read things like The Good Food Revolution by Charles
Will
Allen and Charles Wilson. I'll probably read Stephen Ritz's Green Bronx Machine.
I want to read that one.
Love him.
There was another one that
I do follow a lot of women. I do read a lot of women. Although there is, what's his name? Data. There is an author who writes about empowered masculinity, and Steve Data. I don't know. Anyway,
you mentioned Data. I thought of Star Trek. Sorry.
There are things that I would be interested in reading. But yeah, like you said, here's the reading list.
Sorry, my screen went a little dark. I don't know what happened.
I
thought I was losing you.
A bunch of white men. Yeah.
Well, and there's some that I've been referred, and I just haven't picked them up to. I know Kate talks about, Kate Northrop talks about, I'm going to butcher the name of that book now.
Yeah, On the Ball or something like that. And I tried
the patriarchy.
To read it.
The one about the patriarchy. That one. There's that. Anyway. It's fine. Yeah. So finding people that you fit who you are, help you expand that, also help you to kind of expand your thinking, I think. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm not talking pressure. It's like you have to read this set, especially when it comes to fiction books, right? It's especially as an adult. I think as high school kids, it's important to have that variety so that you can determine, sometimes fiction helps your critical thinking, right? Especially in high school. A story like Fahrenheit 451 gets you to open up your thinking into that possibility so that you can become the 44-year-old, right?
Yes.
That understands.
I don't think that I'm above high schoolers in the need to learn and expand.
Oh no, that's not what I meant.
But yes, yeah. No, I know. But I think that there's also the thought of like, well, I did that in high school. I don't have to do it anymore.
Right.
No, I can read articles and books that aren't necessarily along my beliefs, not to hate on them or whatever else, but to just see. I think that the idea of Marie Forleo talked about it in B School about, coming at it with beginner's eyes, even if you think that you know the lesson, even if you think you know everything that there is to know about clickable ads on YouTube.
Right.
If you come to a new teacher and you just come with the mindset that I can get something out of this, then you're more likely to get something out of it. And so I do think it's important to read with that perspective. But I
think
also
the benefit, go ahead.
No,
I think the benefit of being, sorry.
Okay, cheers. I'm gonna take a drink. You go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think the benefit of being 44 and looking at it is, because I think in the same way, I think you should still work to expand your mind, but I think that you also know what helps you expand your mind. And not every author is going to do that, and not every approach is going to do that. So I think that's where the benefit of being not in high school comes into play, where you don't have to read the wider, as I'm going outside, sorry, the wider view of what's out there. You don't have to read everything to develop, right, to expand your mind.
Yep.
You can be a little bit more picky choosy in how something's written, in terms of how it's going to hit your mind and how it's going to, right? That I think is a large difference between, I think as high schoolers or junior high or even college, you need to read more, you need to expose yourself to more and more different, not just views, but also ways of writing those views. Because you can look at 4 different authors, right, who are writing about the same exact thing, but they say it 4 different ways. And it might be good for a high school student or a college student to read all 4 of them, because they need to know, right, all of those different ways of writing on top of, right, what those views are. But I think in your 40s, if you still want to expand your mind, but what's going to get through to you. Because even any book, right, I could buy this and just tell you, you know what, this isn't working for me. I mean, any book, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I love that book. And I'm like, but her writing's not working for me and I can't get through it or whatever. But then I pick up this book and this touches me and it works. But they're saying the same thing in just a different way, right? Yep. I think that's okay too. And I think that's why these books, you have to go through the list, and it's okay to be picky choosy. You don't have to read everything. Yep. I mean, in the end, I would love to be able to read everything, but there's so many books in the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could read something about gaming or sci-fi, fiction, nonfiction. I mean, you could read Stephen King's book on writing and being an author and appreciate it. And I would be like, yeah, I think I'm going to read something by Liz Gilbert or Anne Lamott about writing, and I'm going to get something out of that, because there's going to be references to passages or something that he's written that I'm not going to be able to get through with Stephen King. I mean, I'm doing some editing work right now, and one of the books was this paranormal thing, but there was one of the themes of the book was these horrible childhood sexual traumas, right? I read it for grammar, punctuation, capitalization, there were huge expanses of the book that I had to just have a very, this is a sentence, this is a sentence. Does this sentence make sense with that sentence? Does this need a comma or whatever? And then I edited a book about, that was a channeled text by a religious figure, and I had to remind myself I was editing, because I was just like, oh, I'm reading, I'm scrolling, I'm reading. And I was like, oh yeah, go back. I think that was missing some punctuation, and read it to edit it. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely no shame in reading genres and things that you enjoy, because life should be enjoyed. And there's nothing wrong with having summer fluff, even though I don't have any summer fluff for you. I do have Life Incorporated by Kelly Bach. Just another nonfiction, how do you do it? But it's talking about life as work, avocation, vocation. And my other little hack is, if you find an author that you like, read who reviews the books if you're looking for another author, because someone who reviews it is, an author that reviews a book is probably writing something very similar. And so I often have a new to read list from the back cover. So the Whole Brain Business book might also be something I would like. There's a yoga instructor that's recommending the book. I might go find her YouTube channel, you know, like whatever. And then this book came up. This I read years and years and years ago. When Women
You're going to have to say what it is. It's not.
When Women Were Birds by Terry Tempest Williams. And yeah, I love her writing. She writes about birds, not something I thought I would be interested in at all. But I bought it at a certain bookstore that we both love, that is now on Camelback Road. And
they have a coffee bar too, by the way.
Yes, I know. I bought this and then went and got a coffee and sat down and read. Back on, it was raining that day. I can't see the date.
Maybe if you come
the 30th of November 2014 is when I bought this, with some sage. By the way, if it tells you anything at all about what was going on in my life.
I bought sage when I went to my book signing.
Yep.
Well, it is 8:45, so I actually have to venture over and make sure
the child is okay and not scorched. And
yeah, the great, we have a great group of parents in this field, so I know she's doing okay over there. But I need to go, Mom.
That's okay.
So
I should probably.
And my husband's blowing up my text. Well, he's got the cats, and he had to go to the vet this morning
with the toddler
because Kit had his first appointment. Yes. Well, in the car, they're doing curbside. So, in the car, while the cats got looked at, but yeah. And it's 8:45, and we tried to. We're at our okay. We're getting to this, and we could talk books for. I mean, I don't know about you. We could talk books for another couple hours.
Yep.
As usual. So
just like most things.
Maybe we'll do another one. Oh, here comes. What is that? Here comes the teenager. Hold on. What is that? That is carrot. I'm coming out in a second. One of the moms brought carrot cake.
Wow, why am I not with you right now?
Look at this.
I was expecting dead
this
scorpion. I was expecting weird lizard. Mom can
Okay,
take
this is my
home.
daughter, not my son.
Well, this is true.
No, my son's not here, remember? This thing is bigger than my head. I love it. She's like, Elizabeth thought you might want a piece of carrot cake. And it looks amazing. So,
Yeah, there you go.
I guess that's my cue.
Yay. We may or may not be around next week. That is yet to be determined. It is Father's Day. Happy Papa's Day to everybody if we don't see you then. But watch our feed. We'll let you know. And this will be up on YouTube later and stay on my page. Great. Happy reading.
Sounds good. Happy reading. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.